Welcome back to the shop, guys. Today I have here a 2022 KX450 SR. That's like the race model, whatever. It comes with things like a pro circuit exhaust pipe, different cylinder head, triple clamp, stuff like that. But anyway, the owner said that it needed a valve adjustment. Was asking me if I can adjust the valves for him. I asked him what makes you think it needs a valve adjustment. He says while he's riding the bike, when it shuts off, it doesn't want to start back up until you let it sit and cool down for a while. I was like, well, how does it start up when it's cold? He says, well, it starts up perfectly fine when it's cold, just fires right up. It's like, well, I don't think it's your valves. With valves, here's the thing. If the valves are too loose, you'll hear valve clatter and chatter and tapping sounds. If they're too tight, mainly the intake side that ends up being too tight, then it doesn't allow the valves to fully close, especially when the bike's cold, and it makes them really hard to start when they're cold. But then once they're warmed up and the aluminum head expands, it typically will tighten up that little bit of clearance, and they kind of generally will fire up okay once they're warmed up. It's just when they're cold, if it's a kickstart bike, you have to kick it like 30, 40, 50 times, or maybe push start it. But if it's an electric start bike, you have to crank it until your battery's almost dead if the valves are too tight. But because this bike fired right up and fires right up when it's cold, I was like, it's not your valves, man. We got something else going on here. So I asked him, how long do I have to let it run before that happens? He said, it just has to get warmed up. Okay. So I brought it here in the shop, started her up, let her idle until she was fully warmed up. She wasn't quite spitting water out or anything, but you know, the radiators were hot to touch. I shut her down, went to fire her back up, and sure enough, it'd go, boom, boom. It'd just fire for a split second and then die. And then you would hit the and it wouldn't fire. And after about 5 or 6 times of trying to crank, the battery this lithium battery has a safety mechanism in it where when the battery starts getting too warm, it'll cut the current, cut the power to the bike until the battery cools off. And that would happen after about the 6th time trying to crank it. Then I'd have to wait for the battery to cool down. So I was like, okay, let me check the fuel pump. I pulled the fuel pump off, put it on the bench, hooked a battery up to it, which we're about to do that again in a minute here to show you. But I hooked the battery up to it, let it run for like 20 minutes, and it was doing fine. It would disconnect the power, reconnect the power, is doing fine. I was like, maybe it's not the fuel pump. What the heck is it? So I put it back on the bike, started the bike up, and waited till that problem happened again, got it warm to where it wouldn't start up again. Then instantly I pulled the pump off, hooked it up to the battery again, and it was working fine. Like, that's weird. So I put it back on the bike. Sure enough, it still won't start. So I checked the power. I disconnect the power going to the fuel pump, connect the voltmeter to it, and it's sending 12 volts to the fuel pump. But when I connect the wires up, I don't hear the fuel pump. You know, you can take this cap off and kind of rest your ear right here. You can hear when you hit the start button if the fuel pump's working. It wasn't turning the fuel pump on. I checked for spark. It's making spark. So it's not turning the fuel pump on. It's trying to send voltage. The fuel pump's not hooked up. But if the fuel pump's hooked up, it rejects it. It's not sending voltage to it until the fuel pump cools back down, and then it wouldn't reject it, and it would fire back up and run until it got warm again. So I came to the conclusion that the fuel pump must be drawing too much current, and it's too much of a load on the system, and the computer's rejecting it for some reason once it gets warmed up. So to fix that, we tried to order a new fuel pump. We ended up having to get this all balls fuel pump, because we tried to order a fuel pump and they are on back order right now, not due to be back in America for another month. And you know how that is. It could take longer, it could take sooner, but it could take longer. So we looked everywhere. No one has them in stock, and they're on back order, which indicates obviously that a lot of them are failing on people. That's one thing that it does indicate to me, at least. So we got an all balls kit to pop in it, so fingers crossed that fixes the issue. So let me go ahead and pull this tank off here real quick. We'll connect the battery to it. I'll show you how we're going to do that. And then after that, I'm going to pop that in, and let's see if that fixes the issue. Okay, I got a fuel pressure gauge hooked up to the fuel pump right here. And I use some safety wires to tap into here. Safety wire. It's easy to figure out on this fuel pump which one's positive and negative. They color-coded the wires, red for positive, black for negative. So let's go ahead and connect the battery up to it. I've already done this, and I let it run for 20 minutes. This is just for video's sake. I'll connect it now. Anytime you play around with electrical like this and gasoline, make sure you have a fire extinguisher ready. Make sure there's no wet gas on. There could be little sparks when you connect the fuel pump and disconnect it. So make sure there's no gas on your rags or anything like that. The only fuel that you want right now is inside the tank, so it's shielded from sparks. So I have a fire extinguisher ready, and I have a water hose on and ready to go. You see that little spark? That's what you want to watch out for. The fuel pump is kicking about 47 psi. I usually find these bikes, they're supposed to be around 50. I usually find them anywhere from 45 to 55. Now I found every fuel pump's a little bit different. It's the fuel pressure regulator that kind of dictates that. Plus your gauges can be off a few psi. But typically a good running bike is somewhere between 45 and 55. This one's at 46, so it's producing good pressure. But like I said, the computer is rejecting it once it gets warm. So that's why we're replacing the motor in it. So let me go ahead and disconnect this. We're going to swap out this motor with that Alls ball one. So I can flip the tank upside down and gas doesn't come spilling out. I'm going to put this little rubber cap right here over the vent hose. That'll keep the gas in the tank. Sometimes these fuel pumps, there's only one way to put them in. It looks like they made the spacing a little tighter on these two mounting bolts right here, so that you only can put it in one rotation, one way. But just to be safe, I'll put a little mark right here, so I know which way the output is supposed to be pointed. One of the things I would like to point out is I do prefer to just replace the whole fuel pump when it's available. It's better. I mean, it's more expensive, yes, $400 for a fuel pump for this thing. But for me personally, I have a little more faith, you know, if I just replace the whole fuel pump than using these kits. If you're on a budget, it gets the job done. Or if, like with this one, it's on back order, it does get the job done to get the kit and just do it that way. The kits are about 80 bucks or so, but I personally prefer to use a whole new fuel pump. But we couldn't get one, and he wants to ride, so that's why we're doing it this way with the kit. Let's try to get this dirt out of the groove here. There we go, got that all cleaned up. All right, if I remember correctly, these pumps are a little bit easier to rebuild than like the Yamaha one in the last video I did, the KX450 pump. Let's first start by seeing what's all in the kit. The kit looks like it fits a KX250F 21 to 22, 250X, and the SR, KX450SR, and the KX450 from 19 to 22. So fits a wide range of bikes. Sometimes that means that they will come with more than what's needed to do the job. But on this one, no, it looks pretty bare bones. So, all right, we got the pump right here. Let me grab a Phillips screwdriver. Okay, looks like we have 3 Phillips screws. Let me start with them. Like I said, I do remember these Kawasaki pumps being a little bit easier than the Yamaha pumps. The Yamaha pumps don't have screws, they have clips, and there's like 4 of them, and you have to have them all clipped up for it to slide apart. I don't remember if we have to disconnect these yet or not, but let me go ahead and do it, be safe. Got that one. This one's kind of being a pain here. There we go. Now I'm gonna remember that the red was closest to the fuel pressure regulator, the positive, the red here. I gotta remember that. Alright, as you can see, there's a little O-ring in here for where it seals. I'll pop that out for now. I'm sure the kit came with a new one, because that's where that plugs into. We have the fuel pump here. Slide it out, the motor I should say, and it has a filter on it. Alright, so this is supposed to, oh, there's another O-ring on it right here. Let me pop that off. It looks like it's about the same size as the other one. Alright, I'll just leave that on there so I don't get them mixed up. Let's go ahead and pull this out of the kit. pull this little cap off right here. Does it have the cap on the other side? No, it does not. Alright, they have your two new O-rings right here. Have to figure out which one goes to which side. I'm imagining that one goes there. That fits a little loose. I don't like that. Let me see how this one, the original one, fit. A little loose too. Okay, well we'll start with the original. I mean, with the new one. See how that goes. If it doesn't make the pressure we need it to make, we'll improvise and do what we got to do. All right, we got the. Got to plug this filter on. These things can usually be a tight fit. There we go. Sometimes you have to give them a little tap to get them on. Be careful if you tap it. Try not to rest this on the bench. And if you do, don't tap too hard. Try to hold the body with your hand. If you can get away with doing it like that, it's better. Now it also has these little rubber pieces, so let me pull them off. Alright, well, let me let these drop for now because we're going to first slide it into the body. Tell you what, that filter doesn't, I mean that O-ring doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in its sealing, but let's see. Well, it kind of went in snug. Let's see. Okay, I couldn't blow in there. Hold on. Okay, I can blow the exit port right here. I can blow in it right now, but with that in, I can't. So that O-ring is sealing. So we're going to be okay with that. Oh, I see what these do. These little rubber things, they have the holes. They sit right in there like that. Alright. Getting somewhere. Got the new O-ring there, but let me go ahead and pop that back out. Actually, I prefer to have it on here if it'll stay on there. Now let's slide this bad boy together. There we go. To be safe, I'm gonna put a dab of blue Loctite on these screws. Just to be safe. I don't like anything coming loose when you're out riding. Like I said, I would prefer just to get an OEM fuel pump, but they're on back order. We don't know when they're going to come back in, and he wants to ride. The reason being is because when a fuel pump goes out on these modern day 4-stroke bikes, they just go out. And you don't want that to happen when you're actually on the track riding. That being said, I've had good luck with these kits as long as they're installed properly and you do a good job. I've had good luck with them. I don't see them as being any less reliable than the OEM ones. It's just more of a warm and fuzzy feeling if I put a brand new OEM one with everything being all new and then I didn't have to take it apart. These are easier to take apart and put back together. Remember, the red goes closest to the fuel pressure regulator. These are easier than the Yamaha with the screws, so I don't feel as bad rebuilding these, but like the Yamaha ones with the clips, them things are hard to get apart. Like I said, if you check out my last video where I did it on a YZ250F, I want to make sure I get these things all the way on. Okay, that's looking good. Everything's clipped in. We can put her back in. You can see I still have gas in the tank. As long as the tank's 3/4 or lower, you can typically just plug the the vent on the cap and flip the tank upside down. Let me wipe that surface real quick. Fingers crossed this does the trick. I will say I did try another fuel pump on it from a 2015 KX450, 250F. What I did was, even though the part numbers are different, the pump's supposed to be different. It had the same connections, the fuel line and the electrical connection. It had the same connection as this one, so I said, what the heck, let me try it. And I started the bike up with that pump, that whole tank and pump. I just took the whole tank off that bike and put it on this one, and it ran and ran and ran. I could shut it off, start it up, shut it off, start it up. So that's what led me to believe it's got to be the fuel pump, because the only time it acts up is when this fuel pump is on it. Then it acts up. So, and you saw that little spark when I went to go connect it to get it working. So it just might be putting too much of a load on the system, and the computer's rejecting it. At least that's my theory. We're going to find out if I'm right or not. Alright, let me go put her back on the bike. I'm not going to put all the... yeah, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to put all the plastic on and stuff yet. Let me make sure it's not leaking. Just hold it up like this with the gases. And yeah, so far so good. That's normal right there. I got this plugged off. Yeah, so what we're going to do is put it on the bike real quick. I'm not going to bolt all the plastic and stuff on. I'm just going to pop it on, and we're going to start her up and test her out. So let me do that. Actually, let me backtrack. Let me go ahead and connect it to the battery real quick. At least make sure I put everything in there properly and it's making proper pressure before I put her back on the bike. So let me do that real quick. I already have all this hooked up. There we go. She's making the same PSI, and I expect it to, because it's the same fuel pressure regulator. She's about 47 PSI. Alright, let me go ahead and disconnect this, put the fuel tank on the bike, and start her up. Okay, this first start up, I expect her to fire up, and then I have to get her fully warm to test it, shut it down, start it back up, and see if she starts back up. But let's do the first start up and see what happens. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start her up, let her run until she's fully warm, and we're going to try it again. So I'm going to pause the video to save time so you don't have to watch this thing sit here and warm up. I'll be right back. Let me get her nice and hot. Just sitting here letting her get nice and warm. I use this little laser light temperature. I keep track of the water temperature with this. She's at 144 degrees right now. I'm just going to let her get up to full running temperature. Alright, let me check her again. Degrees, that's fully warm. Let me shut her down and see what happens. Now this is typically where she would not start back up, so let's see what happens. Guys, she is good. All right, let's get the plastic back on her. For the seat and that stuff. There she is, guys, all put together. Let's check it out. Alright, so if you have a KX450 or 250F, I imagine, and you have these symptoms where it starts up fine cold, but once it gets warm you shut it off and it doesn't want to start back up, what I would suggest, now that I fully diagnosed this and got it all figured out, what I would suggest is as you hit the start, or should I say take the cap off here, put your ear right up to this. You don't have to put it in the hole, but put it right up to it. And just hit the start button real quick. And see if you can hear the fuel pump. See, listen. Hear that? Listen again. That's how long it'll run. If you don't hear that when your bike's not starting, just change your fuel pump out. And that's what it is. And then you let it get cool back down, and it does start. You'll have that, and then that's what it is. You let it cool down, starts up, but when it's hot, it doesn't start. Stick your ear in there. If you don't hear your fuel pump, just got to replace your fuel pump. At least replace the motor if you want to go to cheap route with the all balls kit, or the other kit I've had good luck with is shoot, what was the name of that one? Oh, that's right, Quantum. The other kit I've had good luck with is the kit called Quantum. I would avoid if you're going to do the kit deal, avoid them $30 ones or $40 ones or $35 on eBay. I haven't had good luck with them in the past, or should I say other people haven't. I've never bought one myself, but other people brought me bikes that they repaired the fuel pump using one of them, and the motor was weak and it just wasn't making enough pressure. I'm sure sometimes they work fine, but if you want to do it one time and it works, I can say Quantum and All Balls does have good kits. Now, if you want to, if you got the $400, the best way to do it is just replace the whole fuel pump assembly. You don't have to take it apart then. You get a new fuel pressure regulator, you get new wires, you get that new plastic housing, a new filter and all that. But if you are on budget or you're okay with it and you just want to save some money, you know, $60 or $89 or whatever they are, it comes with a new motor and a new fuel filter, and that gets it done like it just did right here. So I appreciate you guys watching this stuff. If you enjoyed this kind of stuff, please click like and subscribe. I'll be out this weekend. This weekend I'm going to take my 4-stroke out. That's my 2015 YZ450. Yeah, she's a little older, but man, she's good. I actually like her better than the newer YZ450s. I know that sounds strange, but she's just really stable. Corner's good. I don't know. The new YZ450 feels like the chassis set up a little bit more supercrossy. I like how this one feels more outdoorsy, but that's what I'll be riding this weekend. Anyway, guys, I enjoy doing this for you guys. I appreciate you guys watching this. Catch you guys later.